Hey there, Foundation Practices. This is Jared Karen.
And I'm Amanda Diamond, and we're going to talk about vaccine documentation. So, Jared, I just administered some vaccines, and I'm just not sure how to document them. Can you help me out?
Yeah, that's a great question, Amanda. So you can see here I have a note open, and if you were giving a vaccine, you should have had an order. So the order is right here in the chart, and you can see the form will load at the bottom of your note, and it should match the vaccines that have been given. And you'll see the form there, and when you double click on the text, it will open the form. So when you have your vaccine form, there's basically two types of forms you'll have. You'll have single vaccines and you'll have combination vaccines. This is a combination vaccine,
right?
So it looks a little bit different than a single vaccine. But if you can do this one, you can handle the single one because this one's more complicated. So with the combination vaccine, you'll see some fields at the top here that you have to fill out. Most of the time, there's a default option that will match the information that is pretty typical of the vaccines. Things you'll have to fill in yourself are the lot number and the expiration date off of the label and where you gave it. So once you have that information, on a combination vaccine, you have to tell it the dose number for each component of that combination vaccine. So you can see here for Pediarix, I have to select for Hep B, polio, and DTaP. Once that happens, you'll see all of a sudden there's a bunch of more boxes to fill out.
Yeah, lots of boxes here.
Yeah, so here's the cool part though. You don't have to go and duplicate all this information in all of these boxes. So as long as you have information in the top boxes, you can click this Insert Above Data for each of those vaccines, and it will pull that information in. So you only have to enter it once, but we do have to remind the computer that this has multiple vaccines in it. And so it needs to put it in the right boxes.
Okay. So real quick, so I see like that there's, dose number 1, 2, 3, 4, like there's so many options here. Like, does that really matter though?
It really does, because what happens here is we're telling the computer which box to put the information in the immunization record. So if I accidentally select the wrong dose number, like say I put 2 here instead of 1, what's going to happen is it will skip box 1 and it's going to put a dose in box 2, right? Even if this is the first dose the patient gets.
Okay, so it overwrites it.
And it can do that too. So like you can see here that there is a dose already entered in dose 1, right? If I click on dose 1 and then when I sign this note, my information is going to replace whatever information is already in there for dose 1. Okay. So you can literally replace a dose by clicking the wrong box.
Oh, so that's really important. And I could see how that would maybe even cause errors.
Oh yeah, you can definitely notice. So you want to check for any previous doses. You'll see anything that's entered already on the side. Any one of these boxes here will be something that's entered. And obviously these doses don't make sense because this is a test chart. So that's not something you would normally see, but you would want to make sure to check for those doses. So if, say, there was an error dose, right? Like say there was extra doses given and it wasn't supposed to be given, right? Even if this is supposed to be dose number 3, if the patient's already gotten 3 doses, I'm going to pick dose number 4 because you don't want to overwrite a dose, even if it's not the right number of doses.
Okay, right? That makes sense.
So just make sure you're documenting the actual number, even if it's not the number it's supposed to be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so down at the bottom of the form, you're going to see a couple more things. Once you've got the immunization information in, you're going to want to make sure that you select who signed the consent form, because typically, especially with kids, it's not the patient, so that's useful. There's also this button, Without Incident, which will put basically a little statement that says nothing really major happened, everything went as planned.
Okay, so what happens when it doesn't go as planned? So like the patient faints or feels lightheaded, what do I do with that information?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because you wouldn't want to click this button because something actually happened. So you want to come into this little box here. You can type in here and you can type notes about what happened. So you can explain whatever the situation was and document not only what happened, but what did you do about it. So let's say if that patient got lightheaded, what did you do? And did the patient get better? You don't want to say the patient got lightheaded or the patient passed out and leave it at that, because that looks like you didn't do anything.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that's a really good thing to know about, is anything that happens, allergic reactions, bleeding, anything like that, you want to definitely put a note in this box.
Okay.
Now at the very bottom of the form, you're going to see charges. So this is basically making sure that we have the correct codes in the chart. And your biggest decision to make here is going to be whether you gave a state or a privately purchased vaccine. So
Okay, so state. So are you talking when they're under the age of 19? That's the state vaccines, right?
right. So you always want to get a state supplied vaccine for kids under 19.
Okay.
And you're going to match the charge to what you gave. So if we gave a state vaccine, we're going to pick the state.
Okay.
So this is a kid, so we're going to say that we gave a state vaccine. You're going to click that, and you'll see this box will reflect what you've clicked on right here. So then you can sign the form, and if you're done documenting your vaccines, you'll then click this green Load Admin Charge Form, which we'll cover next.
Okay.
So again, this is a combination vaccine, so there's a lot more in this form. If you were with a single vaccine instead of a combination vaccine, you'd probably have something that looks just like one of these little columns here.
Okay, that sounds a lot easier.
Right, it's very simple, but the same ideas apply. You're going to pick the dose number, you're going to fill in the boxes with the information from the label, and then the bottom section of the form is pretty much exactly the same. So we're not going to cover that in detail because it's basically the same process.